Hi, everyone. Lauren Culp here, President and CEO at CUInsight.com, and I'm bringing you a 3 questions video interview today. I'm really excited for our conversation. Joining me is Brandon Bottomley. He's the Vice President of Sales at Allied Solutions. We at CUInsight love our relationship with Allied, so we're excited to get to chat with Brandon. Thanks so much for being here, Brandon.
Happy to be here. I kind of joke with folks. I have 15-year-old twins at home, so anytime anybody's willing to listen to me talk is a nice change of pace.
Well, I am excited to hear you talk, and I think there are quite a few credit union leaders out there that are as well. Let's dive into the conversation. I have my first question for you is all about executive benefits. Actually, our whole conversation is really about that. Over the past decade, the prevalence of executive benefit arrangements has really grown among credit unions of all sizes. And I'm curious, do you think that there is a one-size-fits-all approach that works?
So quick answer, no. There's clearly not a one size fits all. But you're correct that the proliferation of executive benefit arrangements has been growing. I joined Allied 22 years ago, and when I first started, it was probably most common to see the non-qualified benefit plan at the CEO level, and then even then, predominantly at the credit union that was greater than $1 billion in assets, right? What we've seen over the last decade is not only has traditional compensation, so salary has doubled in that time frame, but also the number of non-qualified plans has really exploded, right? So if we look at year-end 2023 data, and if I look at credit unions 100 million and above, right, nearly 75% of all credit unions have a plan in place, a non-qualified benefit plan in place for their executive. In that same range, 23% of those credit unions have a secondary plan in place. So we've identified maybe others within the credit union that also have a plan. And the greater the asset size, it's kind of a nice steady incline. When you look at the data, the higher that percentage becomes, where there's multiple executives that have a plan. I think at the 3 billion assets and above range, it's as high as 70% where there's multiple plans in place, right? So what used to be a reward, I think historically for a job well done towards the end of someone's career, has really evolved beyond just that reward, but includes things like attracting outside new talent and retention of upcoming talent that's within our own organization. And even when you look at the plans, right? So again, looking at that same data set, and we were looking at the type of plans vary from within that institution. So if we kind of go again, going back to that same data, and we look at just the CEO level, the type of plans, it's almost at year end was about a 50-50 split between 457 and split dollar plans, right? But it's also pretty common to see a combination where they're used in conjunction so they can address both short-term and long-term needs of both the executive and kind of the retention objectives of the credit union. So the design of the plans are going to vary from credit union to credit union, and then even from there, from executive to executive. So that's kind of a long-winded response to say, yeah, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
So knowing that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and some of the data you shared was so informative. I had no idea how many credit unions
Yeah.
across different asset sizes have more than one plan. But how do credit unions go about determining what is the best fit for them?
If you've ever been to a big national conference like GAC or the board directors conference, you'll know that there's a lot of players in this space, right? But choosing the right partner to help them along with that journey is crucial, right? The selected vendor has to be able to not only tailor a plan for the goal of the credit union, but again, the goals of that executive. And just like there's not a one size fits all option, there's not an easy button either, right? So I think when you start this journey, it really starts with some introspection, some internal questions that we have to start asking ourselves. It starts with the why questions. Why are we doing it? Are we looking to reward an existing executive? Are we looking to retain young talent that we've identified within our own organization, especially with a lot of turnovers and a lot of the musical chairs that are happening? We're going to see in the consolidations, there's going to be a lot of movement that's happening with retirements as well. Are we looking to attract outside talent where we need to bring somebody in for a certain position? There's even the concept of, are we just looking to offset rising employee benefit expenses, which is really a whole nother subset category and another way you can use these type of plans. But I think we're focusing on the executive portion today. Uh, then you get into the financial component questions. Again, is it a long-term or a short-term play for us, or is it both? Are we competitive in the marketplace and what's being offered? And I think that question needs to be asked not only for the future plans that we're looking to put in place, but you need to be able to look at your existing plans that you may have on the books as well. Do we have the liquidity right now to take advantage of what's available in the market? And that's probably been a bigger question in the last couple of years. I know for a lot of credit unions, they think of Ally, they think of more on the lending side of things. But I think in the last couple of years, we've been asked a lot of questions more about combating the liquidity constraints that have existed out there for our credit unions. So if you think about liquidity, any existing plans we have on the books, our own investment philosophies, even location, because in certain states, you can't even offer, if you're a state chartered credit unions, a split dollar plan. So there's a lot of variables from the institution's perspective. And then we have to think about the executives themselves. What's their age, their duration towards retirement? What's their health status, their own financial goals? There's a lot of options to be thought of, right? So for example, like if we had an executive in their 30s, right? So they're pretty young. That's a pretty long runway towards retirement. So they may look at a traditional split dollar option while it's a long-term play for retirement. That's a long way off in their mind. So is it a good use of capital for the credit union for that long period of time? Is it going to be a good enough retention tool? So we need to be able to think about those things. Is it going to be a combination? Do we need to explore other options? Maybe 457 executive bonus plans, some sort of combination. So again, pretty long-winded response to your question to say that, choosing the right partner is of the utmost importance.
I'm imagining then, say that the credit union goes through all this process, they figure out what the best fit is for them. Once the plan is in place, is there anything else that you would say, make sure you do this to ensure that this whole arrangement succeeds, or is it kind of a set it and forget it?
Definitely not a set it and forget it option, right? So we're making it sound kind of complicated, but it's not just a fulfillment issue, right? And so regardless of the type of plan that's implemented, the go forward administration services are essential because it's beyond just that first part of that implementation or design of the plan. You have accumulation of the funds, you have fulfillment, and eventually you're going to have completion, right? At some point that plan will terminate. But some of those plans, depending on the design, may be on the books for that credit union for decades. So unfortunately, it can be tempting for firms that are in the space to kind of lose interest after the implementation, right? We've sold this plan, now they're ready to move on and go towards the next credit union, work on that. But for me, that's a recipe for disaster. You need continued guidance throughout the life of the plan. We've seen over the years pretty big swings in the market and in terms of what's been happening in the interest rate environment. Even look what happened yesterday. Credit unions and executives need to put probably just as much weight on the post-implementation support and the capabilities there as they do on the pre-implementation factors, in my opinion. I know that's why here at Ally, we actually have 4 different partners in this space because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but it's also because we vetted them for their ability and their expertise in plan design, but also a proven track record of stability and longevity so that we know that they're here for the long haul, however long that plan is in place.
That sounds great. Definitely good to remember that it's not a set it and forget it, but also the kind of ongoing support that the Allied team provides. As we wrap up this conversation, do you have any final thoughts for our audience or final asks of our listeners today?
I, I think realistically, it's leveraging your partners that are out there. There are more than just Allied, right? There's plenty out there, but finding a partner that's there for you long term, as I mentioned, in leveraging their capabilities, their expertise, and that experience that they've seen across the industry. Ideally, it would be Allied Solutions up here, and there in the corner, right? But feel free to reach out to your local rep or myself if you'd like.
That sounds great. Well, we're going to put Brandon's contact information and that of his team at Allied right here in the post. So anybody who is interested will see that right there to be able to get in touch. Brandon, thank you so much for spending some time with me today talking about executive benefits. I know I learned a thing or two, and I am sure that the credit union audience did as well. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to this 3-question video interview series, and we will be back again next time.